Mig opened her eyes and shouted, "You got to come with me, so after we take some lessons, you some long lessons, and me some short ones together way down in the deep downs. I can be you and you can be me." "No!" shouted Rascuro from Mig's pocket. "No, no, you're doing it wrong." "Who said that?" "Your Highness," said Rascuro, and he crawled out of Mig's pocket and made his way up to her shoulder and situated himself there, laying his tail across her neck to balance himself. "Your Highness," he said again, and he raised the spoon slowly off his head and smiled, displaying his mouth full of truly hideous teeth. "I think it would be best if you do as Miggery Sow suggests. She is, as you could quite clearly see, in possession of a knife, a large knife, and she will, if pushed, use it." "This is ridiculous," said the princess. "You can't threaten me. I'm a princess." "We," said Roscuro, "are all too aware of the fact of what you are. A knife, however, cares nothing for the fact that you are royalty, and you will bleed, I assume, just like any other human." The pea looked at Mig. Mig smiled. The knife glinted in the light of the candle. "Mig," she said, her voice shaking the tiniest bit. "I really do not think," said Roscuro, "that Mig would need much persuasion to use that knife, princess. She is a dangerous individual, easily led." "But we are friends," said the pea. "Aren't we, Mig?" "Huh?" said Mig. "Trust me," said Roscuro, "you are not friends. And I think it would be best if you addressed all your communications to me, princess. I am the one in charge here. Look at me." The pea looked right directly at the rat and at the spoon on his head. Her heart skipped one beat and then two. "Do you know me, princess?" "No," she said, lowering her head. "I don't know you." But, reader, she did know him. He was the rat who had fallen in her mother's soup, and he was wearing her dead mother's spoon on his head. The princess kept her head down. She concentrated on containing the rage that was leaping up inside of her. "Look again, princess. Or can you not bear to look? Does it pain your royal sensibilities to let your eyes rest on a rat?" "I don't know you," she said, "and I'm not afraid to look at you." The pea raised her head slowly. Her eyes were defiant. She stared at the rat. "Very well," said Roscuro. "Have it your way. You do not know me. Nonetheless, you must do as I say, as my friend here has a knife. So get out of bed, princess. We are going on a little journey. I would like it if you dressed in your loveliest gown, the one that you were wearing at a banquet not so long ago." "Put on your crown," said Mig. "Put that on your princess' head." "Yes," said Roscuro. "Please, excuse me, princess, do not forget your crown." The pea, still staring at Roscuro, pushed the covers back and got out of bed. "Move quickly," said Roscuro. "We must take our little journey while it is still dark, and while the rest of the castle sleeps on. Ignorant, oh so ignorant, I am afraid of your fate." The princess took a gown from her closet. "Yes," said Roscuro to himself, "that is the one, the very one. Look at how it sparkles in the light. Lovely. I will need someone to do my buttons," said the princess as she stepped into the dress. "Mig, you must help me." "Little princess," said Roscuro, "do you think that you can outsmart a rat? Our dear Miggery Sow will not lay down her knife, not even for a moment. Will you, Miggery Sow? Because that might ruin your chances of becoming a princess. Isn't that right?" "Go," said Mig. "That's right." And so, while Mig held the knife pointed in the direction of the princess, the pea sat and let the rat crawl over her back, doing her buttons up for her, one by one. The princess held very still. The only movement she allowed herself was this. She licked her lips over and over again, because she thought that she could taste there the salty sweetness of the soup that her mother had fed her in her dream. "I have not forgotten, Mamma," she whispered. "I have not forgotten you. I have not forgotten soup." Chapter 38. To the Dungeon. The strange threesome made their way down the golden stairs of the castle. The princess and Mig walked side by side, and Roscuro hid himself again in the pocket of Mig's apron. And Mig pointed the sharp tip of the knife at the princess's back, and together they went down, down, down. The princess was led to her fate, as around her everyone slept. The king slept in his giant bed, with his crown on his head, and his hands crossed on his chest, dreaming that his wife, the queen, was a bird with green and gold feathers, who called his name, "Philip, Philip, Philip," without ceasing. Cook slept in a too small bed off the kitchen, dreaming of a recipe for soup that she could not find. "Where did I put that?" she mumbled in her sleep. "Where did that recipe go? It was the queen's favorite soup. I must find it." And not far from the cook, in the pantry, atop a bag of flour, slept the mouse Despereaux, dreaming, as you know, reader, of knights in shining armor, of darkness and of light. And in the whole of the darkened, sleeping castle, there was only the light of the candle in the hand of Miggery Sow. The candle shone on the princess's dress and made it sparkle. And the princess walked tall in the light and tried not to be afraid. In this story, reader, we have talked about the heart of the mouse, and the heart of the rat, and the heart of the serving girl Miggery Sow, but we have not talked about the heart of the princess. Like most hearts, it was complicated, shaded with dark and dappled with light. The dark things in the princess's heart were these: a very small, very hot, burning coal of hatred for the rat who was responsible for her mother's death. And the other darkness was a tremendous sorrow, a deep sadness that her mother was dead, and that the princess could, now, only talk to her in her dreams. And what of the light in the princess's heart? Reader, I am pleased to tell you that the pea was a kind person, and perhaps more important, she was empathetic. Do you know what it means to be empathetic? I will tell you. It means that when you are being forcibly taken to a dungeon, when you have a large knife pointed at your back, when you are trying to be brave, you are able, still, to think for a moment of the person who is holding that knife. You are able to think, "Oh, poor Mig. She wants to be a princess so badly, and she thinks that this is the way. Poor, poor Mig. What must it be like to want something that desperately?" That, reader, is empathy. And now you have a small map of the princess's heart: hatred, sorrow, kindness, empathy, the heart that she carries inside her as she went down the golden stairs and through the kitchen, and finally, just as the sky outside the castle began to lighten, down into the dark of the dungeon with the rat and the serving girl. Chapter 39. Missing. The sun rose and shed light on what Roscuro and Migrisao had done, and finally Despereaux awoke, but alas, he awoke too late. I haven't seen her, Luis was shouting, and I tell you, I wash my hands of her. If she's missing, I say good riddance. Good riddance to bad rubbish. Despero sat up. He looked behind him. Oh, his tail! Gone! Given over to the knife, and where the tail should be, nothing but a bloody stump. And more foul play! Gregory dead! Shouted the cook. Poor man! That rope of his broken by who knows what, and him lost in the dark and frightened to death because of it. It's too much! And we'll stop there for today. It's too bad about Gregory, isn't it? Because he was an innocent character.